Okay, so for this packet we're working on linear perspective, specifically one-point perspective. So the first page has a lot of vocabulary and a lot of explanation. You need to go over it and make sure you understand everything that's on this page. On the second page here, we're going to be drawing the horizon line, vanishing points, orthogonal lines, and vertical lines on top of these images. I'm going to use different colors. I'll use a blue for the horizon line. I'm going to use purple for the vanishing point, and we'll just have one because this is 1 point perspective. I'll use red for the orthogonal lines and green for the vertical lines. So we're going to start by trying to figure out where exactly the horizon is going to be. It's covered up by some trees. So if we draw some orthogonal lines, we can find the vanishing point where they intersect. So these handrails are orthogonal lines, and where they intersect is our vanishing point. And running horizontally through that is the horizon. So here's the horizon. And we've got two orthogonal lines. Now, if I look at the corners of these gates, they kind of create an implied orthogonal line. They're a little bit off because they're not super uniform, but if I kind of look for the average line, that makes an orthogonal line as well. You probably need to label 3 or 4 of these orthogonal lines. That should be enough. Now, in this picture, these vertical lines that I'm labeling in green aren't quite vertical. They're a little bit diagonal, and that's kind of because of the angle the photograph was taken at, or maybe irregularities in the construction. But for our purposes, we can think of these as being vertical lines. I'm labeling those with green. All right. Now moving on to the second image here, again I can draw some orthogonal lines. Anything that makes a diagonal line that's going towards the center of the image is probably going to be an orthogonal line. You can remember that orthogonal and diagonal kind of sound alike. So they're going to be your diagonal lines that go towards that vanishing point. I'm labeling them here in red. We have the top of the ship, the lines made by the windows, the lines made by the building, the different levels of the building, and then windows as well. Now if I go through the vanishing point where the orthogonal point lines converge, I have a horizon line. So my horizon line runs through there and hits the vanishing point. And now I'm going to draw in my vertical lines with my green pencil. So I'm going to label, I've got tons of vertical lines, I'm going to label 3 or 4 of them. Now we're going to move on to actually drawing in 1 point perspective. And for that, there's an abbreviation you can remember to make things easier, and it's FOBE, F-O-B-E. And that stands for front, orthogonal, back, and erase. And it's our procedure for drawing boxes. Alright, so now we're going to draw a series of boxes in perspective. So we're going to remember that abbreviation, FOBE. So F stands for front. In this situation, we've got the fronts of all our boxes drawn already. So we're going to move on and start with O for orthogonals. So we're going to draw using the ruler from the vanishing point to each corner on the front. And we'll skip that back corner because we won't be able to see it behind the front of the box. And after our orthogonals, we'll draw the back. These are going to be vertical and horizontal lines. And now I'm blocking in the box. I'll leave these orthogonals in blue so that you can see them, but normally after this step we'd erase the orthogonals we drew that are not part of the box. This is where the back line would be, but you can see it's covered up by the box, so it's not necessary for us to draw it. So next I'm going to draw orthogonals connecting the corners of this box to the vanishing point. So a good way to remember which sides you need to draw is think about where the box is relative to the vanishing point. So this one is down from the vanishing point and to the right. So the sides I'm going to draw are opposite that. They're going to be the top or the upper side and the left-hand side. Again, I'll erase. So again, front, orthogonals, back, and erase. We don't need to draw the fronts for these. So all of these boxes that are in the corner or diagonal from the vanishing point are going to have two sides visible. So again, I start with the front being drawn. I draw out these orthogonals. Once I get more practice, I don't have to draw my orthogonals all the way to the vanishing point. I just draw them so they're leading that way, and then I'll have less to erase afterwards. Now these boxes that are either directly above, below, or to the left or the right of the vanishing point will only have one side visible. So if they're on the axis created by the vanishing point, either the horizon or a vertical axis, it'll only show one of their sides. So again, the fronts are drawn. So I draw the orthogonals, then the back of the box, and then I erase my extra orthogonal lines. So next I'm going to be drawing letters. You'll notice that each of these letters has its own vanishing point. Normally when we draw a bunch of things in one image, they'll all share a vanishing point or two vanishing points if we're doing two-point perspective. For practicing these, they're done with their own vanishing points. So remembering phobe, the front is already drawn. So now I start with the orthogonals. So these orthogonals back here you can see are kind of blocked by the front. I don't actually need to draw those. Kind of showing you where they are now, but it's not necessary once I understand which ones are blocked and which ones are visible to draw those. So there's my orthogonals. My front was drawn for me, so now I move on to B for back. I'm going to draw the back of the A. So I want the lines on the back to be parallel to the lines on the front of the A. And then from that corner that I create between the back edge and the orthogonal, I'm going to draw a diagonal line up, then a horizontal line, and then another horizontal line. The key is that each of these line segments is parallel to the adjacent segment on the front of the letter. So there you go. On this one, my orthogonals are in blue, and I'll leave them that way so you can see them. So the L is very similar to just doing a simple box, nice and easy. So I draw orthogonals connecting the corners, the three corners that are visible to the vanishing point. I don't need to do them there because they're blocked by the front. And now I'm going to do a line parallel to the bottom of the L for the back. And then from that corner that's made, I'll draw a vertical line going up. And I can put these lines wherever I want them. It just depends how thick I want that letter to look. And now I erase my orthogonal lines, F-O-B-E. So the L is probably the simplest one. The E is a little more complex. But again, I'll start with the front, which is already drawn, so I skip that. Then I go to orthogonals. O. And you can see the E is to the left of the vanishing point, so I'm going to be able to see the right-hand sides. I'm also going to be able to see the top and the bottom of the arms because they're up above and below the vanishing point. After the orthogonals are drawn, I'll draw the back, and I can make them all parallel to their respective front edges. So we can see the two upper and lower arms are even at the end, and then the middle arm is a little bit inside. Just a little bit short. I kind of judge that or eyeball it on my own. I'm going to darken in all of the edges that make the E. After I'm done with that, I'll erase the orthogonals. Same process here with the W. The only difference is we've got some diagonal lines. So we can see that the W is down and to the right. So we're probably going to see the top and a lot of the left-hand sides of the W. So I have my front drawn already. So remember, front orthogonals. So now I'm drawing my orthogonals. I don't need to connect any corners where the orthogonals would be covered by the front. From here, I'm going to draw a parallel line going across in 3 segments because the top of each section of the W is even. So the back will also be even. Then I can draw diagonal lines going down. I want them to be parallel with the front. I'll darken in all my lines. And then I'll erase my extra orthogonals. Same process. Just a little bit harder because there's some more diagonals in here, but not too different. So now we're working on some more complex shapes, but the principles are mostly the same. So it's like drawing a couple of boxes that are put together for most of these. Then the U will have a curve. So let's look at these corners here. And these ones here, and look at how they compare to the vanishing point. If they've got empty space between them and the vanishing point, I need to draw the orthogonals in. If part of the front of this box is blocking them, then I don't need to draw the orthogonals. Or I only need to draw them until I run into the front. So we have our front drawn, so that's F. Next is O, which is for our orthogonals. And now B for the back. So you can see inside of that little rectangular hole, I'm drawing the orthogonal line until it runs into the front, and then I don't need to draw it anymore. At that point it'll become invisible and I don't need it. So these lines just go either horizontal or vertical, and I want them to be the same distance in each segment from the front of the box. So as I'm doing this stair-stepping and kind of switching from vertical to horizontal, it's really easy for my measurements to get off. So I kind of want to double check them and compare them and do my best to keep those similar. Now I'll darken in all of the lines of my box. And normally I would erase my orthogonals after this, but I'll leave these blue ones here. So our next form is a U, which is pretty simple. It just has one tricky part, which is we've got this curve instead of a corner on the bottom. So I connect my corners where I don't have the front of the U in the way, where there's space between the orthogonal and me. And I just connect the outermost point of the curve. And now I'm going to freehand draw the back of the curve. I just want it to be kind of running parallel to the front of the curve there. Then with my eyeball, I'm just going to judge where the back of this side should be and draw that in as well. And it should curve a little bit at the bottom, just like the front. And I can adjust that until it looks right, as needed. Alright, for this one, again, it's going to be just like drawing the simple boxes. We have the front drawn, so that's the F. We move on to O for orthogonal lines. And we'll draw the back of the form and erase. Same process as before. For this back form, it's pretty much the same thing. We've mostly got horizontal and vertical lines, so it should be pretty easy with the exception of this one diagonal right here. As long as I make sure the back edge of that is parallel to the front, we should be good. So again, front is drawn, so that's F. Now I'm drawing my orthogonals for O. After that, I'll draw the back, and then erase my extra orthogonals. Same process. Alright, so next we're going to be drawing stars. This is pretty simple, except they've got a lot more corners than some of the shapes we've been working with. The other challenging thing about this is going to be figuring out which of these corners we need to connect with orthogonals. But just remember, if we look at the corner and see if it's obstructed, we don't need to connect it. So here, these ones are connecting to the vanishing point, as well as this one. And then this one up here goes a little ways before it's obstructed by the front. So we only need to draw it until it hits that obstruction. And now we're going to add the back. So we got the front drawn for us. These are the orthogonals we did. And then the back, FOB, and then erase afterwards. So for the back, we want to make sure everything's the same distance away. So kind of make the same thickness on all of the sides of the star. And we're also supposed to shade in the sides, so we'll shade in the sides. Using the side of my pencil to shade, get the coverage a little bit faster and smoother. So you'll notice with these that all of the stars are sharing the same vanishing point. So that's usually the way we're going to draw multiple subjects in a single drawing. They'll all share the same vanishing point. So again, the front is drawn for us, and then I just draw the orthogonals, and then the back, and then erase. So I can't really see the back on that top point. And for this exercise, I'll also shade the sides. Just like that. So I'm just going to work my way through the stars, doing the same thing with each one. The front is drawn for me, so then I'll go to the orthogonals. After I draw those in, I will draw in the back, and then I will erase out the extra orthogonals and shade the sides. So same thing for all the rest of them. Okay, so for the next entry, we're drawing a variety of household items. Again, these are all sharing the same vanishing point. So we'll start with this lamp. I want to make this lamp kind of boxy. It looks like more of a round lamp, but I'm going to make it kind of a square, almost desk lamp. So I want to make it have nice edges and corners and lines so that I can use perspective to draw it. So again, I'll connect orthogonals to each of the corners. If a corner is covered up by the front, I don't have to draw where it's covered. But otherwise, I want to connect it with orthogonals. And I've got another orthogonal running underneath here. Now I'll draw the backs. So front, orthogonal, back, FOB. Again, I want these lines to all be parallel to the front. I missed that orthogonal there, but we'll add that in now. This one will be vertical up to here, and it doesn't hit the orthogonal, so we only draw the vertical line. I'm making the base a little bit longer than the sort of vertical post that holds up the lampshade. So I'll make that go back a little bit further. I'll darken in my lines with my pencil. I'm using a darker drawing pencil for this part. I have to adjust that a little bit. Clean that up a little bit. Fix it. Then I'll erase out my orthogonals. So the lamp is fairly complex. Now we'll move on to the chair, which will be pretty easy. So I'm going to start by, I've got the front drawn already, so I'm going to add the orthogonals. I'm not going to go all the way to the vanishing point with the orthogonals. It's not necessary, but I do want to make them plenty long enough to get the chair done. So I'll have a little extra when I'm done that I'll erase later, but they don't have to go all the way to the vanishing point. They just have to, we have to be sure that they're pointing towards the vanishing point. So now I'll draw the back end of the chair. So I can choose where I draw this. I can make the chair as wide as I want. I want like a reasonable chair width. So I kind of think about where that is and draw it in. Check it out, see if it looks reasonable. If it does, I can proceed. Now I'm going to add in the legs by drawing a vertical line, then a diagonal or orthogonal line, another vertical line, and a horizontal line. So if I want to keep the chair simple, I could have it have like a flat front instead of legs. But when I add the legs in, it gives it a little more detail. Now I'll erase my orthogonal lines and my extra lines that are in here. So next I'm going to go onto the table. The table will be pretty simple. Drawing the top of the table is basically like drawing the top of a box. So I have the front drawn already, so I go to the orthogonals. I connect those, and then I'll have orthogonals extending from the legs of the table here at the bottom. I'm going to make those a little skinnier with some vertical lines going up to make the legs. I'll erase the extra orthogonal. Now I'm going to add the back of the table, so I can decide where I want the back of the table to be. Draw that in. The table can be as long as I want it to be. I can just put the back of it any spot that I like. Then I'll finish by erasing the extra orthogonal lines. So next we have a TV. This is an old thick TV. So it's basically going to be like a box. I've got the front drawn. So now I add the orthogonals. I'll also add the orthogonals for the little TV table underneath it. Now I'll add the back. Again, I want the back edge to be parallel to the front edge here. So these are horizontal and vertical. And then the table will be horizontal too. I moved the back edge of the table up a little bit to make the horizontal line so that it'll look like the table's surface is bigger than the TV. I just darkened that all in. So you can see the table, the top of the table goes back a little further than the back of the TV. Make it look like there's a little extra space on there. And then I erase my extra orthogonals. Phobe. Front, orthogonals, back, erase. Alright, so the chest here is just super basic. It's basically just a box. So I've got the front drawn. I'll add the orthogonals. Again, since I've got the TV in the way especially, I'm not going to draw them all the way to the vanishing point, but I need to make sure the edge of my ruler is on that vanishing point so they're going to the right spot. I got a little orthogonal there. Now I'm going to draw the back, a vertical line, and a horizontal line, making sure that they are parallel to the front, the edges of the front. And now the bed. So I've got the front of the bed drawn. Remember, when we say front, we mean the side that's closest to me. So this is like the side of the bed, but it's the front as far as the way we're drawing it goes. So I'm going to draw orthogonal lines going from any corner that we have. So the bed's a little more curved, so it's hard to tell what some of the corners are. Like right here, this part that sticks out the most, that's going to be a corner. I'll draw a line there. Then we'll have another one right here. So now I want to draw a line that's similar to the front edge of the bed on the top. So on the headboard, it's a horizontal and vertical line, but here I've got to curve it where the curves are. So there's a little curve at the pillow, and it's pretty much flat on the mattress, and then it curves down around the corner at the foot of the bed. And darken all these lines in, and then I'm going to erase my extra orthogonals. So for our last exercise here, we're replicating a little picture. So we've got the little version up in the top right hand corner, and we want to draw it bigger. The problem is, I measured this and checked it out, the boxes aren't actually proportional. So your bigger drawing is going to end up a little bit skewed. It's going to be a little bit off one way or another. The important part though is just to make sure that you have all of the elements in the picture and that they're using the vanishing point that's labeled. So right now I'm sort of sighting this floorboard and trying to figure out where it is. So I kind of measured where it is on the small image, and now I'm sketching it in on the bigger image to start. So my main box here is this dresser, so I'll sketch that in to start. So I'm going to start by sketching the front. We remember phobe, F-O-B-E. We have the front here. Then we'll do the orthogonals, the back, and erase. So we want to start by sketching in lightly, trying to compare the size in our drawing we're doing to the original. I'm not super happy with this, so I'm going to have to fix it up. So I think this is a slightly better start. So this is the box I'm going to start with here. And I'm going to draw in the drawers. So we've got 3 of them. The top one's a little bit separated from the bottom 2. I don't think it's terribly important to be super accurate with this drawing. Just make sure you have all of the elements. So make sure you have that dresser and that rug and that picture. So all of these main objects are going to be a little bit different in the way we use perspective on them. This dresser is going to be like a normal perspective box. It has a front and a side, or the top. Here I'm drawing the orthogonals in. So this will be like a normal box. We only see the top because it's directly below the vanishing point. Here's the back edge. And last step is to erase. Now the other objects in the drawing are going to be a little bit different. You've got the rug underneath the dresser. The rug is almost like a 2-dimensional shape. It doesn't really have a front. It only has what we would regard as the top as far as this drawing goes. So the sides of that are going to be orthogonal lines. And the front edge and back edge are going to be horizontal lines. And the picture in the background is a little bit different. It is kind of just the front of a box, so it's going to be horizontal and vertical lines. I can use my perspective to draw the base of this lamp. In the small image, it doesn't have a lot of detail, so we can't really see if that's the way it's done there. But if I want to, I can basically make that a box in 1-point perspective and add the lamp. So then I'll just go through, I'll add the rug and the painting, and then I am done. Alright, so there it is. That kind of finishes up our 1-point perspective packet. Hopefully you're able to get through most of that on your own, but if you needed this, hopefully it offered you whatever help you required. And I think that's it for now, and we'll see you next time with the 2-point perspective packet. Bye.